Join me as we learn Chumash for Thursday. Parshas Bamidbar, chapter 3, verse 14, continuing the dedication and census of the Levites. Yesterday we spoke about how God chose the Levites to be the ones to serve in the Holy Temple from amongst the rest of the Jewish people. They would be the ones to guard the Holy Temple as well as the Kohanim. Today we continue with the actual census. And God spoke to Moshe in Sinai desert saying, Pekoides b'nei Levi, count. Take a tally of the Levite family, Lebeis Avosam according to their fathers' houses, Lemishpachosam according to their families, Kol Zachar every male. You're going to count me Ben Chodesh v'mayla, from a month old and over, Tifkedem they will be counted. While everybody else and the Israelites were counted from 20 years old and over, by the Levites it was from 30 days and up. Rashi Ben Chodesh v'mayla, from a month of, Mishayotza Meklal Nefolim, because there's a rule that after 30 days, a child is considered guaranteed to live. You know that within the first 30 days, they are considered a nefel, which is like a miscarriage or not considered a viable child. Once the 30 days old, then they are counted to be considered one of their future job that they are going to protect the Holy Temple. Rabbi Yehuda bar Shalom said, this tribe has already been accustomed that already from the time when they were born, they're already considered counted holy. When is this? Because from the moment when they came into Egypt, who was born was Yocheved. Yocheved was number 70 of the count. Nimnis b'shivim. Because if you count all the people that came into Egypt, you'll find there's only 69. But the Torah says 70 people came. Who was the one that was number 70? Was Yocheved, because she was just born right when they came into Egypt. From here we see already that the Levites, the moment they're born, they're already being counted, which is 30 days old. And over here we see that we count them from 30 days old as well. Verse 16. And Moshe counted them by the word of God, Kasher Tzuva, like he was commanded. What does it mean by the word of God? Omer Moshe lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rashi 16. Moshe said before God, how is it appropriate for me to go and to go into their tents? Lodas minyan came, to know how many little children are there. It's not appropriate, it's not modest. You don't know what's happening in their tents. Omer li HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so God said, Asei ato shalcha, you do what you have to do, Vani aseh shali, and I'll do what I got to do. Holach Moshe, so Moshe went. Amad al Pesach Hayil, he stood by the entrance of each one of these tents. Vashchin mekademes lefanav, and the divine presence would announce before him. Baskal yitzum and oil vaymedes kach v'kach tinekes yesh beilzel lekach nemer al pi Hashem. When he would approach the tent, the divine presence and the special voice of God would come out and say, "This is the amount of children that are in this tent." And therefore, the Torah uses a terminology on the word of God, meaning that Moshe himself didn't count. It was announced how many people were in there. Verse 17. These are the children of Levi b'shmeisim by their names, Gershon, Kahas, Umerari. Verse 18. B'nei Gershon, these are the children of Gershon, according to their families, Livni, and Shimi. Verse 19. B'nei Kahas, the children of Kas, according to their families, Amram, Yitzchak, Chevron, and Uziel. 20. B'nei Merari, Machli, Mushi was Machli, Mushi, Ele, Levi. These are the families of the Levi, Leveis Avosam, according to their fathers' houses. Verse 21. Now the Torah is going to tell us the tally, the numbers for each one of these families. Gershon, for the family of the Gershon. Mishpachas HaLivni, you have the Livni family. Mishpachas HaShimi, the Shimi family. Ela Mishpachas HaGershuni, these are the Gershuni families. Why does Rashi over here, why does he have to tell us again the family of Gershon was the Gershuni? Kaloimar, meaning to say, Gershon, for Gershon, for Gershon, that included the families of Livni and Shimi. Upkudeim, and their count, kach v'kach, was so on. So therefore, the Torah continues to count each one of the families and tells us what the families were, who the families they came from, and their tally of all the entire family. Their count, their tally according to the count of every male from a month old, their total count was 7,500. 23. The family of Gershon, where did they camp behind the tabernacle? To the west. 24. When the Sibei Sav Gershuni, the leader of the family of Gershuni, was El Yosef ben Lo'il. Verse 25, Umishmeres b'nei Gershon, what was their job? Each one, as we mentioned before, that every family of the Levites had jobs and places where they were placed when they're traveling. So the job of the Gershon family was, Ba'oil Moed was with the tent of meeting. Their job was with Hamishkan, the actual tabernacle. Ha'oil, the covering. Michseyu, and the net, Michseyu and the covers. Umasach Pesach Oil Moed, and the screen of the entrance before the tent of meeting. So before the tabernacle. So they had the tabernacle, the middle of the tabernacle, which were the goat skins and all the coverings and so on. And then they also had to take care of the covers as well. 20 Rashi, Hamishkan. But the Mishkan we refer over here is Yiriyas HaTachtenis, which is the covers, the roof on the bottom. Ha'oyel, the tent over it, which is the second cover, which as we explained in the book of Exodus. Masiyas the gag, which were made of the roof, and then Michseyu, the top cover, which that was the tachash skin and the ram skin. As we mentioned, there were 3 layers that were the roof of the Mishkan. The bottom layer that you saw inside the tabernacle is called Hamishkan, and that was the lower curtains, which was made of the twine, the 6 different materials. Then you had the one on top of that, which was the goat skin, and then one on top of that, which was the tachash skin. So the one that you saw on the inside is called the Mishkan. The one that you saw on the outside was the Ohel, and the one that was called layered on top is called Michseyu. Umasach Pesach, Hoavilin, that's the entrance door, the door that let you in, the screen on the front. Vikali Achotzer, as well as their job was taking care of the nettings of the courtyard. Ves Masach Pesach HaChatzer, and the screen that let you in, the entrance of the courtyard, Asher al Mishkan, which was by the that enclosed the tabernacle, al Mizbeach, and enclosed the altar as well, Saviv all around, Ves Mesarav, its pegs, Ve'el Chol Avidasi, and all the work that was involved with it. Verse 26, Ves Mesarav, what kind of pegs? Shal Mishkan of oil, the ones that were holding down the tent and the tabernacle, but not the pegs of the courtyard ones, which that was given to the people of Merari. So this is only the pegs that were holding the actual tabernacle, not the courtyard's tabernacle, not the courtyard screen pillars. Verse 27. Now we've finished discussing the Gershon family. We move on to the next family, the family that Moshe was from as well. V'likos, and for the family of Kahas, Mishpachas Amrami, you had the Amram family, Mishpachas Yitzhar, the Yitzhar family, Mishpachas Chavreni, and the Chevron family, Mishpachas Uzieli, and the Uziel family. Eila Mishpachas Akasi, this is the clan, this is where the people in charge were, this being all the families of Kahas. Verse 28, the account of every male that was a month old, from a month old, the amount totaled 8,600. These people were the keepers of the sanctuary itself, the holy part of the sanctuary. Verse 29, Mishpaches b'nei Kahas. Where did the family of Kahas stay? Where were they camped? Al Yerech HaMishkan Teimana, they were on the south side of the tabernacle. 29, Rashi, Mishpaches b'nei Kahas Yachonu Teimana, Smucha lahen, was right next to them was Degel Ruven Achenim Teimana. On the south as well was the tribe of Ruven. As the Talmud tells us, Eil Rasha, Eil Shchene, woe to an evil person and woe to his neighbor. That means the impact of the neighbors have an effect on the people around them. That's why you're going to notice later on, when we come to the story of Korach, who did the tribe of, you have from some of the family of Korach, took along with them the people of Ruvain, Dasan, Aviram, and Masai Mechamim Ish, Dasan and Aviram, 250 people, together with Korach and his people, that joined along Korach in his coup, in his tried coup against Moshe. That was because he was from Kahas, they were on the south, they were next to the Reuven people, they influenced them, neighbors have an impact on the people next to them. Verse 30, when the Sibei Savla Mishpaches Yakasi, and the leader of the family of Kahas family was Elitzaphan ben Uziel. 31, Mishmartem, their jobs were, what they were in charge of was Ha'arin, Hashulchan, the ark, the table, the menorah, Mizbachis, the altars, Klei HaKodesh, and all the holy vessels, Asher Yishar Subem, that it was used in the holy temple, V'hamasach, and the curtain that was in front of the holy temple, V'chol Avidasai, and all the work that was involved. This was the curtain that would partition from the Holy of Holies. 31. There were two curtains. There was two entrances. We mentioned before the curtain, the screen that was in the front of the actual tabernacle, that was for the Gershon family. This is the screen that separated the partition between the Holy and the Holy of Holies. This was by the Kohat's family. Verse 32. Unasi Nasiei Alevi, and the leader that presided over all the Levites was the leader of all the leaders, was Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. He was Elazar, the son of Aaron the Kohen. Pekudas Shemrei Mishmeres HaKodesh. His appointment was to keep everything in the sanctuary, everything that was holy. He was responsible for. Verse 33. We now go to the Merari family. Rashi. What was Elazar's unique task? He was responsible for everybody. And therefore the Torah goes on to explain what was he in charge of, how was he a leader? Meaning, because of him, all the holy things that happened underneath, with all the other Levite families, all were under the auspices of Elazar. Verse 30. Verse 33, the Merari family, Mishpachas Machli of the Machli family, Mishpachas Mushi, the Mushi family, Eila Mishpachas Merari, these were the families of Merari. The tally of all the firstborn, from 1 month and up, Sheishes Alafim Mamsayim was 6,200. Unasibe Saval Mishpachas Merari, the leader of the family of Merari was Tzuriel ben Avichayil, Al Yerech HaMishkan Yachanu Tzafayna. They were camped on the north side of the tabernacle. 36. The job that the people of Merari had, the family of Merari, was Karshei Mishkan. They would carry, first of all, the boards of the Mishkan, the planks, as well as Ubrichav, the bars, Va'amudav, and the pillars, Va'adanav, and the sockets, V'chol Kela, V'chol Avedase, and all its vessels and utensils, and the work that was involved with it. Verse 37. Va'amudei achatzer saviv, and the pillars around the courtyard as well, va'adnehem, and their sockets, v'seidoisam, and their hooks, u'misreim, and their ropes that were used to keep them in place. 38. V'achoinim lifnei mishkan kedma, the people camping in the front of the tabernacle. So now you have the north, south, and west were the three families. Who were the ones that right in front of the tabernacle? Lifnei mishkan, in front of the mishkan kedma to the east, was the Fnei Oyel Moed in front of the tent of meeting. Mizracha to its east was Moshe, Aaron of one of was Moshe, Aaron, and his sons. They were responsible for Shemri Mishmeres HaKodesh. They had to protect and watch. They were the keepers in charge of the sanctuary. Mishmeres Bnei Yisrael, to trust for the Jewish people. The Hazor HaKarev Yumis, and therefore they were responsible to make sure that no outsider who approached, anyone who would try to approach, was then to be put to death by an act of God. Moshe v'Aaron Abanov, they were the ones that were on the east in the front of the tabernacle. And they were right next to the banner of Yehuda, which were on the east as well. And the people with Yehuda, which was Yisachar and Zavulun. And like we said previously, to the south you had you had by Reuven and the family of Kahat. So we said, woe to the neighbor, woe to the wicked, woe to the neighbor. Over here we say just the opposite. Toiv l'tzadik, toiv l'shchene. Good to the tzaddik and good to his neighbors. You have good neighbors, it has an impact and an effect on the people around him. Because the neighbors of Moshe, they were people who were studious and studied Torah, which was Yisachar, Yehuda, and so on. So being that Moshe himself studied Torah, that had an impact on his neighbors, which were Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zvulun. As we see later on in Tehillim, it says, Yehuda, they were from the ones that made the laws. And the people of Yisachar were the ones who knew, meaning they were the ones who sat in the Sanhedrin. They were able to articulate and know exactly, to figure out the times of the moon as well, and when to make a leap year. And you had Masayim Rashi Sanhedres. There were 200 of the leaders of the Sanhedrin were from the tribe of Yisachar. So to Zvulun, and from Zvulun were the scribes and the great scholars as well. So you see that Moshe's impact had on the people next to him, which was Yehuda, the ones that make the laws, Yisachar, the Sanhedrin, and Zvulun, the scribes. Verse 39. All the counting, all the tallies that were made of the Levites according to their families by Moshe and Aaron, Al pi Hashem, by the word of God, l'mishpachosam, according to their families, kol zachar, every male, miben chodesh v'mayla, from a month old, and up, shnayim ve'esrim alef, was 22,003, shnayim ve'esrim alef, 22,000, or 22,000. Rashi, Asher pakad Moshe v'Aaron, if you look in the Torah, the word Aaron has in it dots on it. Why is there dots on top of Aaron? And this is also in the actual Torah scroll. You'll see little dots on the word Aaron. Nokad al tevas Aaron. There's a word, the nokad al Aaron, ve'Aaron. There are dots on top of the word Aaron to tell us something. Loimar, to teach us. Shaloi haya b'minyan halavim. That though they counted the Levites, the only person that was not counted amongst the Levites was Aaron himself. Shnayim v'esron elef, 22,000. Ubipratan. The interesting thing is that if you do the detail and if you do the counting, you have Gershon Levin was 7,500. Then you have Amram Yitzhar, the Kos family was 8,600. And the Merari family is 6,200. If you do the math, you'll come out to 22,300. So why does the Torah tell us only 22,000? We're missing 300. At the Moitza Shleish Meis Yisayrim, you come out 300 extra. B'nei Gershon Shivas Alav Chashmeis. The Gershon family was 7,500. Kahas was Shmenis Alav Sheshmeis, 8,600. Merari was 6,200. Harei Shnayim V'Esrim Alav Sheshmeis. You have 22,300. Harei V'Loi Kalalan. Why does the Torah not include the last 300? Imashar with the other 2,000. V'Yiftu as Abchoiris. And this way the Levites would be able to redeem all the firstborn. And then you have the other three, the other 275 extra bechoros. They wouldn't need a separate redemption. The rabbis explain in the tractate of bechoros as follows: those 300 Levites, they themselves were firstborn. And therefore, and therefore they were redeemed on their own. What happens over here is, as we're going to learn later on, in the next verse, in the next chapter, in the next aliyah, is that the Levites had to take the place of the firstborn. So therefore, you had the exact tally of firstborn versus Levites. What happens is there were 300 firstborn Levites. Those 300 firstborn Levites didn't have to redeem themselves because they were firstborn and they were already, the job was already given to them as well. So therefore, when the Torah tells us the tally, it's 22,000 that had to be redeemed from the firstborn. And those 300 were remaining extra. And they were already firstborn and they didn't have to be redeemed. This concludes the Torah reading for the 5th day, for Thursday, Parshas Bamidbar.